Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
It is time once again for everybody to come aboard that Green Screens Media train. What is up? This is One and Done News, Notes, and Mid-Major Edition. Welcome back to the show, guys. I am the conductor of the aforementioned train. My name is Jay Heinrich. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. William Cannon. Up here on the top row with me tonight, Mr. at Fantasy Nav in them Twitter streets. His name is Eric Romoff. You should give him a follow. And also, our guy, El Capitan of this green screen ship. We know him as Mr. Money. You know him as MC Holland 34 on Twitter. He is Mike Holland. Mike, what it do, baby?
Yo, I love that intro, man. It gets me pumped. Like, let's go. If my voice sounds a little bit deeper, yes, I have been battling a little bit of the sickness, but I'm on the mend and I'm ready to rock and roll. We got a ton of action going on, boys. Let's fire this thing up.
Yeah, man, let's get into it. Let's just dive right in. At the top, I'm just going to mention how all the seeds of the Missouri Valley Conference tournament held. So we'll get those chalk matchups there. Eric, Cleveland State, kind of a crazy end to that game with some fouls at the end and some free throws and overtime being forced. And, it's the Horizon League tournament going on over there. Have you taken anything in yet so far? Has anything stood out to you as we get into this, this conference play or these conference tournaments, I should say? Anything stood out to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, an absolutely wild finish to that Cleveland State game. I think the thing that it underscores more than anything is the absolute chaos of single elimination tournaments deciding anything, right? Literally every team, no matter how big an underdog, no matter how much they're overmatched, they've got a puncher's chance to make a game out of it, right? So, like you mentioned, your beloved Missouri Valley Conference held serve in terms of the favorites all advancing, but I mean, there's going to be a ton of close calls. We're definitely in the midst of buzzer beater season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's why we love it. That's why we do what we do. That's why we dive into this for you and for everybody watching. Hey, real quick, we've got one more, to all the way through tonight and then up till showtime tomorrow. We're still giving away. Let's flash that jersey up there real fast. Mr. Monster Energy Drink himself. The jersey is caffeine free, but it is not autograph free. You see it right there. The man himself, the Fighting Illini Energy Drink man. That's an autographed jersey. To figure out how to win that for free, all you got to do is go over to @GetGreenScreens on Twitter. You got to retweet that tweet that's pinned to the top of our page there. You've got to subscribe to this channel. It's pretty simple. Smash those buttons, and you could be in the running to win that awesome autographed jersey. The guy, and we might even throw in a couple cans of Monster just because.
Oh, we're doing it.
I mean,
Breaking
it's
news.
got to happen, right, man? Like
Monster's included in this giveaway.
Wait, we had yes, it came through. Yes, all the way through. Producers officially, yes, Monster's on the way with the jersey. So make sure you go over to @GetGreenScreens on Twitter. Give us a follow. Follow @FantasyNav. Follow @MCHolland34. Follow Dr. William Cannon. Now, let's get to the news. All right, let's start with Marquette. Shaka Smart, like this guy. Okay, so Marquette, first ever Big East title. Secured that on Tuesday. Beat Butler on the road, 24-6, guys. As much as, again, in the kick to the nether region, it might feel like for me, like Shaka's in the discussion for National Coach of the Year, right? Like, he's got to be.
Yeah, he has to be. I mean, when they picked 9th, I think, preseason in the Big East, no one had them on the radar. They have some nice players like Kolek and Jones. They've really progressed, but there's no one on their roster that you would consider a star. They're still young. They're just playing a great offensive brand of basketball, right, Eric?
Yeah. I mean, they absolutely are. I think they're up to, what is it, 5th or 6th in the country in offensive efficiency. And don't look now. I mean, they're decent enough on the defensive side. I think they're right around 100th in that category. So sort of top third of the league or so. You know, when you're going to play that pace and that that highly effective brand of offense, you know, if you're even above league average on the defensive side, you're going to be in position for a lot of games. And I mean, your guy Shaka, I know that we've talked about this a fair amount at this point. I don't think this is the same dude that you guys had when he was up there in Austin with you. Like, he was still trying to do the chaos ball thing. He was still like using a bunch of like weird pressures and traps, and like he's like running a legitimate offense now, right? Like, they take a ton of threes. If they're not taking threes, they're getting a bunch of shots that are close to the basket. Like, it sort of looks like kind of like a distilled version of an NBA offense almost, right?
Yeah, I think they're first or second in 2-point percentage. So they're finishing at the rim, and they don't have a star. Like, I want to ask you guys this. I'll start with Jay. So, question on this, like, because they don't really have a star, I don't know if we consider Kolek or Jones like, you know, a mega star coming into the tournament. Is it almost, would you rather have a team that is, you know, gifted offensively without a star, or do you think when it gets to tournament time, you got to have that guy?
I think you can get through the first weekend of the tournament like that. For me, that's not a championship winning formula. I mean, if I had to pick one of the two, I would probably say that guy would be Jones. But Eric, I don't see without having that star power in this day and age in college basketball, it's hard for me to, you know, side with that sort of roster construction if I'm in terms of who I'm picking to win it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I kind of struggle with this one, right? Like, I agree they don't have, you know, that big name star. I do like the pieces that they have, right? Like, they can switch really well, they can create really well for the other players around them. Specifically, Kolek has taken a big step forward in that regard. So I think they've got the type of team that is going to be competitive in just about any game, right? But we've seen it year in and year out, right? Like, you need that one guy that can just kind of rise up no matter the circumstance, and that's probably where this team is lacking a little bit.
All right, so with that being said, now what's their ceiling? What's Marquette's ceiling, guys? I mean, it's 30-1 to win the national title right now, 7-1 to make it to the Final Four. Does that intrigue either one of you? Either one of those numbers intrigue either one of you? All right, we'll start there, Eric.
I mean, I'm not really looking at them for a national title. You know, maybe if we're closer to 40 or so, maybe 35 would feel about right. Final Four, I could bite on it, right? You know, that offense is going to, like I said, keep them in just about every game. A lot of it's really going to depend on, you know, what side of the bracket they fall into. They're firmly a 2 seed now, so. You know, I think they're the type of team that can come out of their region, but if they end up in the wrong one, it could be a one weekend kind of affair for them as well.
Yeah, Mike.
I love that. I mean, it really depends on who the one is.
Yeah.
For me, like if it's Kansas or I don't feel good. Obviously, Kansas playing anybody right now doesn't feel great. Silly Marquette thing, but. Yeah, I mean, all the ones are going to have a dominant player, so it'll be interesting. And that, Jay, we got to see, like, is Shaka going to be able to get it done in tournament time? Because he had, you know, plenty of great teams. I mean, he had NBA talent on those Texas squads that lost to your Abilene Christian squad.
No, Abilene Christian, yeah.
I'm not touching either one, so what about you?
No, I'm not either, because there's another team that I like a lot more that's in the Big 12 that has odds very similar to that, and that's TCU. So if I'm going to mess around with 30-1 to win the Natty, or like that 6.5, 13-2, 7-1, whatever odds to make it to the Final Four, I'm playing more a TCU that I know has star power and can make that happen. So no, I'm probably I'm off of those numbers as well for Marquette. Plus, I know Shaka has done it once, but we've seen this story before where he's coaching a team that's playing really well towards the end of a season. and then you get to tournament time, and the switch flips for some reason in a not so good way. So I'm staying away from those numbers. Hey, if y'all are checking in with us right now, make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about Marquette. Is Shaka going to Shaka the world? I don't think he is. But if you do, leave us a comment. And while you're here, if you haven't already, hit those like and subscribe buttons for us. We appreciate that. Thanks for doing your part in the Green Screens universe. Let's move into the Big Ten now, guys. Iowa going on the road and just really smacked Indiana around on Tuesday, 90-68. Right as I was saying, Indiana's heading in the right direction. They get boat raced and shot just so poorly from deep. And guys, I mean, where are we on Indiana at this point? I mean, Iowa, give credit to Iowa for handling their business in a big time way, but with Indiana, we talked about them winning without TJD's best, and then you get a monster game from him, and nobody else shows up. I mean, what are we going to think about, or what are we thinking about Indiana right now?
Yeah, I'll take the first swing here.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to shoot 2 for 11 very often from 3. So more of an outlier. Still like their tournament chances. It was just one of those weird games. They kind of ran into a Tony Perkins guy that was on the cover of our show the other day. And what did he do? He turned out a massive triple-double. Probably should have played him in DFS with 23 points, 2 rebounds, and 8 assists. What is going on with this guy? Like, Eric, come on, man. Like, Tony Perkins is now turning into a superstar right before the tournament starts.
Yeah, you don't leave the table when you're on a heater, right? And that is the philosophy that Perkins is rolling out there. I mean, he's absolutely white hot. And even with that, I mean, it's not like everything was funneling through him, right? Like Keegan Murray still had a really solid game, 26 points, 7 boards. Everything was clicking for the Iowa side. Part of me wanted to speculate as to whether or not it was kind of a letdown spot for Indiana coming off of that big win against Purdue. They get the season sweep against them the game prior to that. But I mean, Iowa also had that big game winner. I think it was against Michigan State leading into it, right? So, if we want to get into the semantics of who had the bigger letdown spot, we can. But ultimately, 2 things really collided here that felt like outliers. 2 for 11, 18% from 3 for Indiana is pretty atypical. And on the other side for Iowa, 13 for 22, 57% from range also doesn't happen every night for Iowa, right? So those 2 things collide, and it looks like it's kind of a laugher. But I think if you run this game 100 times, it's probably pretty close to a 50-50 split.
Yeah, so let's spin the wheel here, guys. Let's start with DJ. Yes or no? Contender, Final Four contender for Indiana. You in? Yes or no?
I'm still in on Indiana. I think this game is more of a positive reinforcement of what Iowa can be, and not necessarily a reflection of totally what we'll see from Indiana down the stretch here. But I'm still on board with Indiana to be a Final Four contender.
Eric,
for
where
sure.
you at on it, man?
Yeah. Count me in there with Jay. I think this team, as it stands, is capable of competing with almost any team out there. And eventually, somewhere waiting in the wings, they've got Xavier Johnson to come in as the cavalry whenever they might need it. So, a team that's playing this well despite the loss, it's rare to see them having reinforcements on the way, but that's exactly where Indiana is.
Yeah, and Jalen Tushifino, I mean, he just kind of came back down to earth. So, yeah, I don't really worry about Indiana. I still think they're, I guess I don't even know if they call them a dark horse anymore. I mean, they've been in the national spotlight so often in the last few weeks about being a contender. So I'm still on it. Let's slide on, Jay. What do we got next?
Yeah, Boise State now, a little Mountain West talk. Boise State really, for the most part, solidifying their ticket with a victory over San Diego State at home on Tuesday. 12 offensive rebounds for the Broncos. Max Rice pouring in 26 in the victory for them as well. This is a team, guys, that in a Mountain West conference that probably has 3 in, could get 4 though. So the Broncos sort of punching their ticket here. Is this a team that we need to pay attention to when we're looking at our brackets, or Is this sort of just one of those sort of mid-major looks that will fizzle out when the bracket turns or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I want to like Boise State. Max Rice is a solid player. Marcus Shaver is one of the. I mean, if you had to pick 5 guys to take the last shot in college basketball, he's definitely one of them. He's hit so many big shots throughout his career. I just don't know that they have enough in the front court. I know Tyson Degenhart, he's solid, but, it feels like he probably needs another year to take another step. So, yeah, I really like this Mountain West this year, but it's kind of tough. Like, if Boise State's going to be their number 2, I do think they're deserving of, I think we have Nevada on the bubble right now. A lot of people do. So potentially could get 2, only 2, but could also get 4 in. So
4,
yeah, I don't know. Like, I like Utah State, great 3-point shooting team. New Mexico's, I wish we could get that backcourt in there, Eric. Do you think this I think they're going to get 4 in. Are you with me on that, or do you think they slide down to 3 and maybe even a 2?
Man, I had them as getting 3 in pretty definitively, but specifically in the context of of the Big Ten just completely going sideways, like I think that might actually crack open the door for a 4th team, right? Like depending on which bracketologist you trust, there are a pile of teams from the Big Ten that are projected to get in, and some of them are kind of stumbling down the stretch here. So if that trend continues, if someone that's on the bubble doesn't have a good outing in the Big Ten tournament, for example, I think the Mountain West getting a 4th team is probably the immediate response to that.
I don't really. This could go the wrong way, in my opinion, in terms of what this is going to look like for this conference. I could see Nevada getting in.
What about the conference tournament, though, Jay? Think that could solidify a 3rd?
Got to get a couple of victories in the conference tournament for one of these teams, like Nevada. Depending on if they can get a couple of good victories in the conference tournament, I could see that boosting it up a little bit. But that's the question mark for me, is I don't know that they've done enough to necessarily already be there. And for me to have to look at a team and say, man, they've really got to find a way to finish this season strong. They're coming off, they've lost 2 out of their last 5. They're not, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really in on Nevada. So this could be one of those things where I could see it going the other way, but they'll probably end up getting 3. That's been good enough. All right. Little SEC talk here. Moving on. Kentucky, somebody that Eric and I up here on the top row really been riding hard, and I will continue to do that. They're in, and they're in. Okay, Kentucky's in. But shocked at home by Vanderbilt. I still think that they're solidly in here, but it's just a team that you don't know what you're going to get on any given night, especially when they struggle from deep like they did. You talk about stars here, guys. Like Tshiebwe down the stretch is playing like the guy that we saw last year, the National Player of the Year. He hasn't necessarily lived up to those expectations, but as lofty as they were, it's sort of, it's like we've said that before. When he was averaging 16 and 13, and we were like, oh, okay, like whatever. But yeah, how about a 2020, that 2020 vision?
Yeah.
In a loss though. So
yeah.
How are we looking at Kentucky? They're still a tournament team for me right now, but you don't really want to lose these kind of games heading into conference tournament play.
Yeah, like you said earlier, I mean, it feels like they're securely in unless they just. I mean, I don't know what would happen. It would have to be epic failure in the last couple of games, but I don't see that happening. I think even if they did, I think they're still in. I mean, it's good to see Big O play like this. I mean, we've been waiting for it, but we need somebody to go with him. Like, part of the problem was Cason Wallace went down with an injury, and he's kind of their number 2. And man, like Reeves, probably going to have to get a little bit more out of him. CJ Frederick is just not making his outside shots. Yeah, I mean, you can let Oscar go for 20 and 20 if you're going to hold them to, 25% or under from 3. I mean, that's one way, you just let Oscar just do whatever, right? And just take care of it. Don't let the shooter shoot, right? Like, you play a team that shoots well from 3 in the tournament, and 3 points by my math most of the time is more than 2 points. So I think so. Like We always say there's no math on this show, but
there would be no math.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to come up against a team in the tournament that's going to hit 10 plus threes against you, and you got Sheboy nickel and diming, downstairs for what feels like a huge game, but it's really just 20 points, and he just cleans up the glass, right? And most of 5 of his 20 rebounds are typically, if not more, offensive putbacks. So it's kind of like, so it's dominating in a way, but it's not dominating in a way that's completely detrimental to the other team. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, anytime you have one of the top 5 players in the country, right? Like you're going to have a chance in the tournament, Eric. Like Vanderbilt's shown to be decent this year, and Kentucky is just all over the map. I wouldn't feel comfortable going anywhere past maybe a Sweet 16 with them. What about you?
Is Vanderbilt in right now in your mind?
No, Vanderbilt's way out. What do you mean?
Because aren't they ahead of Auburn in the SEC standings?
Oh yeah, but their non-con was so terrible. They're nowhere near it. So I mean, Stack's getting out of there soon. So yeah.
Is he going to Texas?
No, he's not going to Texas for sure. No.
You got it in.
I mean, Vanderbilt too. If they win the SEC tournament, But
so am I.
But yeah,
I mean, look, there's
they
not,
could
not a whole lot.
They could get in, right? Like if they.
Hey, let me ask you guys this. Before we move on. The parallels between Kentucky losing and Indiana losing, and both of their bigs just absolutely going off, and then their teammates around the outside couldn't hit the 3-point shots. Like, it doesn't make me worry anymore about Kentucky right now. There's one off. If we see it again more down the stretch, it might worry me a little bit more. This same formula. Does that parallel sort of? Does that ring true for you guys too? Just when your bigs are going off and your outside shots aren't falling, it's hard to beat anybody right now, right? Like,
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that's a great point. Like, let the big man absolutely eat, and yeah, you can still win the game pretty handily. It feels like when the guards, kind of like the NBA, when the guards are going off, it's like everything goes right because the guards can create, and give easier baskets to your bigs where. Doesn't necessarily work that way where you got to have the kick out and you got to have people knocking down open shots whenever it's a dominant big in there. But now, Eric, to your point, like, I mean, Vanderbilt's out, but I mean, if they win a couple of games and they knock off a few more teams, like they can jump onto the bubble. I mean, that's for sure. I think they got to run the rest of the table. Auburn's going the other way.
Kentucky's 22, 23 ranked in the country right now. Like that's a great.
Just the non-con. Yeah. The non-con schedule for Vanderbilt was terrible, though. So that's the big thing. They're not playing Gonzaga and some of these other teams.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add on the Kentucky side, right? Like this very much so sets up like a team that can yet again be disappointed and bounced early, right? Like we talk about the makeup of a Cinderella story and the type of team that can. As a double-digit seed, upset, a blue blood program like Kentucky, and it's teams that slow down the pace. It's teams that drain from three, and we could see yet again another March Madness tournament where Big O is just feasting down low, but the possessions are limited, and the other team is getting 50% more points whenever they shoot. So
yeah, I
mean there's a lot to worry about. Cason Wallace is really. Where this team's postseason hopes will live and die. Jay, to your Indiana comp, this feels kind of weird to say out loud. I actually have a little bit more faith in TJD in the tournament that I do in Big O. I think he's a little bit more versatile as a player, so that at least if they can avoid getting super one-dimensional in the way that they're using their best player, I think it helps them kind of punch their way out of the corner if they do get one of those feisty kind of 3 and D team in the matchup.
Yeah. Can't wait to see Kentucky end up getting slotted as an 8 seed and just pissing off someone. Like that's the sort of thing that I want to happen. I wanted it to be just good enough to be an 8.
That was like Creighton and Baylor, or like Creighton and North Carolina last year.
Yes. Let's do it again. Let's run it back with this Kentucky side. Hey, Anthony G, we see you in the comments, man. It is finally March. March is here. Thanks for checking in with us, man. Good to see you in the comments. We always appreciate that. Anybody else hanging out with us that you wanted to drop us a line as well? Join Anthony G in the chat. Say what's up. Let us know what you're thinking about Kentucky. I do think that this is a team that's getting out of the first weekend. I'm feeling that good about Kentucky. Moving on, Penn State outlasting Northwestern. They're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, by the hair on their chins right now. Mike, Penn State, they've got some more work to do, but is this a team that is making their case right now to make this tournament?
Everyone in the Big Ten is making a case, even Minnesota. And man, this is, you guys know how I feel about this conference. It's just, they're in March Madness right now. It's wild to see. I love Jalen Pickett. I would love to see him in the tournament. This team comes up against one of these bigs. It's going to be disgusting because they can't guard bigs for anything. I don't know, man. For me, it's the last week is going to be this. There's not another conference tournament out there that is going to have each game in the conference tournament is going to have such huge ramifications. It's going to be from
not even the Big 12 for you.
From the very beginning, no, because I think the only way that Oklahoma or Tech can get in now is if they run the gauntlet through it. Yeah, I still think West Virginia gets in because their non-conference schedule was absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Big Ten, though, it's like literally you don't win that first rounder as an 8 or a 9 or a 10 seed, you are pretty much done. It's going to be absolutely insane. And I think the only thing that we do know is that most of these teams, even if they get in, aren't going to make it to the Sweet 16. So I don't know. What are you guys feeling, Eric? How are you feeling about Penn State and some of these other Wisconsin? They lost to Purdue.
Wisconsin.
Rutgers lost to Minnesota. Come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, this is the mess that I was talking about when we were covering the Mountain West, I should say, right? All these teams that, are right there on the fringe coming out of the Big Ten seem to be kind of tripping over themselves down the stretch run. And on the other side, Penn State was firmly out. I think they were, among the first 4 or the next 4 out, according to most bracketologists out there. And now they get a huge win at Welsh Ryan Arena, right? Northwestern is no longer ranked, but they were, they'll probably go in as a 6-7 seed or so. So great win for them. I think it's got Penn State, feeling much better about their tournament chances. And like you said, this conference tournament is going to mean everything for these fringe teams, right? We talk about, a team like Texas Tech that needs to make a ton of noise and potentially win outright to make it in from the Big 12. On the other side of this coin, if you don't win a game in the Big 10 tournament and you're one of these bubble teams, it's a wrap. Right? There's just no way.
Yeah, you got to make noise. All these games matter, and it's the craziness that's happening in all of these tournaments, and every single one of these games will matter. It's interesting, like you said, Mike, the depth, the top to bottom there. I wanted to compare it to the Big 12, and the Big 12 will have that sort of an effect on people's end of season resumes if they do. But this Big 10 is so important. And we didn't even talk about Northwestern, all-world name Boo Buie, dropping 20 points, 5 boards, 8 dimes in the losing effort. That dude's an awesome cat to watch play, and Northwestern's going to be in the tournament. So before we move on to some ACC talk, how many teams get in? Eric, I'll start with you. How many teams from the Big Ten make it into the Big Dance in your opinion?
How many do you want? How many?
Yeah. How many?
Yeah, I mean, you asked me that question. You asked me how many teams are getting bounced in the first round from the Big Ten. It's probably the same number. I'm gonna go with 8. I think there was a defendable case for 7 heading into this week's action, and I think Penn State, has really played their way in at this point. That's a good win at Northwestern.
Yeah, I'm with 8. I'd rather see 4 get in, but I think 8 or 9 are going to get in.
I think Michigan could find a way You know, like I think Penn State can do that. I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to say, like, it might be 9 depending on conference tournament. Like, a couple of these guys pull an upset on a Maryland or an Iowa or a Michigan State, and it's like, here we go. Now we have 9 in. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, sorry,
no doubt about it. It's going to be a lot. It's a lot of teams. That's how many are getting in from the Big Ten, and there's nothing we can do about it. But maybe watch them, fall off the bracket, like Eric said, round 1, at least weekend 1, because it's going to happen.
You never pick a Big Ten team in Survivor when you're playing bracket Survivor.
No.
Right.
Why would you put yourself through that? No. If you're here in the comments, or if you're here, watching us live, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the Big Ten, how many teams you think are getting in. And also, don't forget, head over to @GetGreenScreens and look at our pinned tweet to figure out a way to get that sweet autographed jersey from Meyer, the monster Meyer. Well, you got to get a flash that, Eric. Can we flash that sweet Puyoka.
So the signature,
auto
there it is.
Certified. It's sweet right there on the number 4. Very nice. Head over to @GetGreenScreens on Twitter and figure out how to win that jersey. ACC talk.
Yikes.
Pittsburgh. Big yikes from Pitt. Had a chance for the outright ACC title at Notre Dame on Wednesday. Those fighting Irish. Those pesky Notre Damers. Golden Domers. 88-81 win. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on there. Bray's final home game as the coach, out there, taking shots and doing his thing, living.
Not shots in the game, taking shots.
No, shots afterwards, yeah.
Maybe both.
Maybe. A lot of emotions there, but a missed opportunity for Pitt. Eric, I'll start with you here in this ACC situation.
Mess.
Yeah, is there any other way to describe what's going on right now than a mess with the ACC? Like, what are we looking at? Are any of these teams actually going to just reach up and grab that invisible brass ring?
Yeah, I mean, almost the exact opposite as to how most people had the ACC playing out heading into the year, right? Like nobody had Pitt up top. Obviously, it's not said and done by any means. They play Miami this weekend for a share of the ACC, but a lot of blue blood programs here in the conference that are kind of having down years. Pitt themselves, I mean, I think it's fair to say they've done a lot better with the talent they have on their roster than anybody anticipated, right? So we've got a large enough sample. They're now a ranked team. I think they're 25th in the country, to where we can expect them to carry some of this formula forward. But I don't know if we're looking at a legitimate kind of deep run type of contender in these Panthers.
Do you think they're an upset candidate, Eric, for the first weekend? For at least the first, I mean, it feels like
they're 25. They're gonna come in as like a 5 or a 6 seed, right?
Probably 6.
Yeah, 6, maybe a 7 because the ACC is so terrible.
Yeah, I mean, how much of an upset is that really, right? Like,
yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's true.
Maybe a 7.
I would feel okay with them. They'll probably be a favorite in their first game, and they'll probably be close to a pick'em in their next one, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I just don't. I don't even know how this happened. How are we here? How do we not have Duke and North Carolina with all the talent in the world not up here at the top? Our guys in North Carolina State are kind of flailing here at the end, and here you are with Virginia and Miami, Cash Money Miami at the top. Yeah, it's a cool story. To me, they're just not contenders. They are the definition of a pretender for a big NCAA run. So, Jay, you following a similar path, or do you like Coach Jeff Capel? Sprinkle a little magic on the end of the season here.
No, I'm in the same boat here. This is a pretender team for me. And if they do end up on like a 7 line, that's going to be one that I'll target, that 10 seed on my bracket. No doubt about it. I'm not too concerned about Pitt making a run here. All right, let's get to some mid-major action here,
Mid.
guys. Little mid.
Missouri
Missouri Valley, I told you guys about that earlier. Everybody held service. Everybody held seed 1 through 8 starting tomorrow. Get after it. If you can find it on whatever obscure channel it's on, ESPN, the Ocho. El Ocho. But outside of my favorite mid-major conference, Mike, why don't we start here with we're going to run through a little bit of mid-major talk here, including our guy from Detroit Mercy that missed that last-second three with a chance of tying the all-time scoring record there. Tell us a little bit about our guy, Antoine.
Yeah, man, we tweeted at Antoine congratulating him on an awesome year, regardless of what happened tonight. Didn't shoot well from the field. I assume there was a lot of pressure, not only for that, but trying to get his team to advance here. So, yeah, Antoine Davis, man, what an incredible year, what an incredible career. Yes, it was 5 years. Yes, it was 60 more games than Pistol Pete, but I don't care, man. That's a ton of points. Somebody said if he took his 3-pointers away and just turned them into 2-pointers, he still would have finished in the top 10 all time in scoring, which is, that's still absurd, right? So, just a shout out here. Man, when's the next time we're going to see someone in the top 10 in scoring? It's a ton of points. Geez, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Pistol Pete averaged 42 a game or whatever. Obviously that's that guy's a whole other animal.
There weren't a lot of defensive stoppers in Pistol Pete's area either.
No, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. And they weren't stopping Pistol. Nobody was. Eric, let's move on to the old A-Sun conference here. The final on Sunday. Liberty meeting up with Kennesaw State. Those two split the regular season title. Who do you got heading in here in this conference tournament final? Liberty, Kennesaw State, who you got?
Yeah, these were the two clear favorites out of the Atlantic Sun Conference to find themselves in this position in the tournament. I'm gonna lean the Liberty side. Darius McGee is just a different kind of player, right? He does have that star power we were talking about earlier, where he can just take over a game, and regardless of how Kennesaw State tries to scheme up their game plan, he's got an answer, right? So it should be a close game. I think it's going to be a ton of fun to watch, but ultimately, I think Liberty is going to edge this one out.
Yeah, I'll go with Liberty.
Liberty.
We're giving away free.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on from Liberty. I'll go ahead and I'll take Kennesaw then with Chris Youngblood. I'll be a little different here.
All right.
Look, just a great job here by Amir Abdur-Rahim. Yes, the name does sound familiar. Is the brother of Sharif Abdur-Rahim. So, yeah, just a fantastic year. Great 3-point shooting team. Youngblood averaging 15, 5, and 2. This game, it's going to come down to the final few possessions. It's honestly a coin flip. So, just to be different, I'm going to go ahead and go with the old Kennesaw because the name's cool too.
Yeah, I'm not going to be different. Top row, sticking together, solidarity up here at the top. I'm taking Liberty. I like McGee way too much in this matchup to not go down that route. All right, time for some rapid fire, little DK Sportsbook talk here. Summit League talk here, Mike. Let's start with you here. Summit League odds here. Oral Roberts -190, South Dakota State +400, St. Thomas and North Dakota State at +800. Who do you got?
Yeah, it's tough to pick against ORU. I think if anybody could do it, it would be South Dakota State. They do have some talent. We kind of talked about that on our mid-major show, I think, last week. They're going to be the ones that give the biggest fight here, but man, -190. If you're betting, I'm not touching anything like that, right? Unless it's in a 3 or 4 team parlay. If I had to pick an upset, it would probably be South Dakota State. Eric, RU, man, some star power there, man. Are you just picking them out, right?
I mean, they're definitely my choice to win this tournament, right? But in terms of the betting market, I'm not gonna lay with that kind of juice. Minus 190 is just the absolute wrong price in a single elimination tournament, right? We opened the show talking about how anything can happen in any one game. So to be that deep in the hole with juice is not it, right? I also tend to agree with your South Dakota State call, right? Like a team that is still absolutely lethal from range. So, they see a few of them go through from distance, and all of a sudden, they're right up there with the best teams in this Summit League. So I like that plus 400 price on them more.
It's got to be Oral Roberts, though. We cannot be robbed of
please.
another tournament without Max Abmas. It's got to be Oral Roberts. I want to see him drop 35 on somebody in the first round because it will happen. ORU's got to make that happen, man. They've got to make that happen. And that tournament starts. What's today? Starts Friday the 3rd.
Yeah,
so
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
About 45 minutes.
Yes. Hold on. Let me. Depending on if you're on the East Coast checking us out, it's already today. Tomorrow on today. Yeah. So, some star power there. I got to see that Max Abmas in the tournament. So I'm hoping it's Oral Roberts. I'm also picking Oral Roberts as well. Lastly here, Big Sky. Little Big Sky Conference. That one will start on Saturday. Montana State, the betting favorites at plus 140. Eastern Washington, a team that we've talked about quite a bit at plus 265. Montana plus 475. Weber State plus 900. Eric, I'm going to start up here on the top row with you. Do any of those look like something that you might want to, have a little interest in, or are these numbers a little bit off, just like the Oral Roberts one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big Sky is a little bit more open than the Summit League, right? So, you don't have the heavy favorite like a minus 190 Oral Roberts. I kind of like to get a little bit of plus money on this one. The Montana line catches my eye. They've got Josh Bannon. He's playing really solid this year. 15 points, 8 rebounds per game. But also the team overall, they're shooting almost 38% from 3, right? So one game sample size, if you can go out and drain a couple from 3, you're going to be competitive. So I like them at plus 475.
What you got?
I'm gonna double that here, and I'm gonna go with Weber State only because I'm a huge Dylan Jones fan. Mid-major superstar in the last couple of years, averaging 17 and 11. Like I kind of shocked their plus 900 in a wide open league. So yeah, let me you're gonna give me the best player in this conference at plus 900. I'm all over that. So I kind of just want to put a Hundy spot on it and see if it can happen, right? Like, none of these other teams really scare me. So, I mean, I don't mind. Like, Montana State's hard to bet. Eastern Washington on a little bit of a skid, right? Lost their last 2 after I think they were 14-0. And then we gave them a little bit of love on the show, and now they lost. They dropped the final 2 games here heading into the conference tournament, so maybe we're the jinx for them. I love your call, Montana plus 475, but also, I mean, Weber State like plus 900 with Dylan Jones. Like, let's roll. Jay, you touching any of these lines?
How soon we forget the Eastern Washington team that we were so hyped up on, feeling so good about, and just lose a couple of games and then we just shove them under the couch with the Dust Bunnies. I love them at plus 265. Like, that's a great number for me. They're not, obviously, if it's not at all an Oral Roberts situation, right? Like you said, Eric, where there's this clear favorite here, but they won the regular season title. And I know they're coming off of a couple of toughies, but out of the Big Sky, I'm really liking Eastern Washington to right that ship and figure out a way to win that title and punch their ticket to the big dance.
All right.
All right. Hey, we're back tomorrow, guys, right? We got our DFS show.
Yep.
Got a big time slate on Saturday. I'm sure there'll be a couple of bonanza seats up for grabs.
Need it.
I gotta have it. It's getting down to it here to the end of how many seats left? Maybe 10?
I think 10, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
probably
it's 10 after tonight.
10 seats left. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. And before the show, one last time, head over to @GetGreenScreens on Twitter. Look at our pinned tweet. Follow the directions, which all that is. Oh, there they are in the gear. There they are in the chat right there. There's the link to that wonderful pinned tweet. Again, @GetGreenScreens. You got to subscribe to this YouTube channel. You got to retweet that tweet that's pinned up there on the top of the page. It's simple. You get a signed jersey and 2 monsters. We're making this happen for you, our listeners, our viewers, because we appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in with us tonight. The man down on the bottom row, @MC Holland34 on Twitter, Mr. Money Mike Holland. Make sure you give him a follow. You can follow @FantasyNav in them Twitter streets. Mr. Eric Romoff, 2 of the best in the business. If you don't know, now you know. Show up tomorrow for the DFS show, because if you don't, you might have a hard time getting this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.